Hello everyone, and welcome to this next part in the female body modeling series for BlenderCookie.com. My name is Jonathan Williamson, and in this part, following up with the previous section on the torso details and such, we're going to jump right in and model the rest of the arms and get started on the legs and such. So we're going to start with the easy part, which is the arms. It's actually a lot easier than you may initially think, because we're not actually going to be doing a lot of detailing on the individual things. You know, we're not going to be really detailing the elbows or any of the individual muscles or anything like that. What we're really looking for is to get the overall silhouette and shape of the arms down, because then small details like wrinkles in the elbow or real refined muscle detail, those kind of things would all be added with either a normal map, a bump map, or even just in the texture to help kind of accentuate or improve the actual model underneath. For this kind of modeling, really we're just looking for the primary forms to make the overall form feel good. We don't really necessarily care about the individual tiny little details. So turning my references back on here for the front and the side view, the arm is going to be a lot easier than maybe you're initially thinking, because literally we're just going to go into edit mode. Oops, let me start my screencast keys. There we go. I'm literally just going to go into edit mode. I'm going to Alt-right click on this edge loop right here, and then I'm going to hit E to extrude once, just take it all the way down to the wrist, and then I'm going to scale it down and make it fit from this side, so, approximately like that. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and rotate it a little bit, because the kind of the shape and form of the forearm in particular is this very subtle curve, kind of like this. And that is, well, it's not too subtle actually, and that's basically the shape of the underlying forearm muscles. Now, with the hand in the position that it currently is, there's not a lot of twist there, but there is enough. Because if you look at your arm, just hold your arm out to the side and imagine your hand. If you just hold your hand out to the side like this, oh, let me start that over. That was shameful. So you've got your thumb, and then your fingers, etc. There's your hand. And of course I'm drawing with a mouse right now. But imagine that's your hand and not some ridiculous cartoony mitt that pretends to be a hand. And you're holding it out flat like that with the palm facing what is presently us, the other person. Then you're going to have very little twist in the forearm. But if you have the hand pointing towards the floor, like our reference does, you're going to see a little bit of that twist in the forearm. And so that's what we kind of want to replicate here. So I'm going to just rotate this around a little bit, and then I'm going to hit R and double tap, or yeah, just R and then X, and then just rotate that around maybe just about like that. And then we can kind of, let's turn off our proportional editing. We really don't need that. And then we can maybe rotate it. I'm going to just double tap R to go into trackball rotation, because that way I can keep things orientated. And we'll go to, say, about right there. This way, this loop that is kind of going right along the top of the bicep is going to come down, kind of trace around the forearm muscle, and end up just at the bottom edge of the thumb. And I think that'll work pretty well. Then I'm going to go to side view, and I'm going to move the loop over a little bit. And then I'm also going to scale along the y-axis by hitting S and then Y to then be the width of the wrist. This way I have created the overall shape for this, and I'm just actually, one thing that I'm also going to do is I'm going to pull this loop here. I'm going to pull it down. Oh, let's do one thing. Since right now we have inside our mirror or our subsurf modifier, we have the editing cage enabled. Let's turn that off, because we want to actually know exactly where our edge loops are at the moment, not where the subsurf result thinks it is. And so what I want to do is I want to grab this edge loop. I'm going to move it right down to the right just above the elbow, where the forearm meets the elbow basically, and then scale it down, maybe rotate it a little bit, just basically make it fit right there, something like this. And then we can move this over, scale it down about like that. There we go. This way, this portion of the arm is straight, the other portion of the arm is curved. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in two edge loops right here by hitting Control R, scroll up once, and then left click. Then I'll move this down. I'll move this down a little. Basically, I'm just tracing the profile at the moment. And then from the side view, I can actually maybe select this loop, scale it down a little bit more, bring it back just a little bit. Maybe select this loop, scale it down just a little. Okay, so that starts to give us that shape there. I'm also going to turn my subsurf level down to 1 just to speed up my view a little bit because I'm running a little choppy right now while recording. While I'm at it, I'm also going to grab this back section of, or the underside section of the arm here, right like this. And then I'm actually going to grow my selection by hitting Control+, and we'll actually grow one more time. And then I'm just going to pull this down, actually deselecting these and deselecting maybe these here. Basically, I just want to pull down the underside of the arm just a little, because right now it's a little bit too high. And we'll maybe pull this side down a little bit more. Maybe hit W and then smooth, just to kind of average it out a bit. There we go. That feels a little better. And then now that I have these loops, I can also go ahead and add in, say, a loop right here, scale it, scroll it up, and then scale it up. And basically what I'm doing is just, adding a loop at a time to then define the shape of the arm. And so by having extruded this once first, all the way down to the wrist, it then just allows me to basically position a loop at a time and already have that twist set. So by defining a loop right here and a loop here, I can now just basically add in edge loops in between, and I don't have to worry about the twist because it's already there. And then I can just simply scale each loop as appropriate along the S and these, or along the Z and the Y axis to then make it all fit really nicely. Okay, so there you can see already in, next to no time at all, I have a decent feeling arm where, obviously there's some issues with it, but it actually feels like the start of an arm. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in and selectively, say, add a loop right here. And maybe then I'll select this one and I'm going to edge slide it down a bit. And I'm going to add one more in between it, because you remember the rule of thirds is that we want basically an edge loop or 3 edge loops at any joint that needs to bend, so any joint. And so that means I need to go ahead and add in 3 edge loops there. So I'll add that in. Then what I want to do is I want to start pushing and pulling some of these vertices around. I'm going to go ahead and go into local view now because I actually don't need my references at this point. So I'm just going to hit slash, and I'm going to turn on proportional editing. And now I can actually just grab, say, these points here. I'm going to pull them up a little bit. And these, maybe pull them out. And I'm just going to start defining and accenting the points of basically muscle intersection. And so here at the where the forearm meets the upper arm, I'm going to pull those in a little bit such that we have these muscles coming down like this. We have the bicep coming in through here. We've got the shoulder muscles. Then we have the triceps back behind, etc. And so I'm just very subtly indicating those different muscle forms and kind of how they meet with the rest of the arm. And right now, I feel like her arms are a little too bulky, so I'm just going to slim them up just a little bit. All right. And this is about as complex as my geometry is going to get for, at least for the time being. I may choose to make it a bit more complex later down the road, but at this point, this is basically all that it is. And, now it's really just a matter of kind of approximating the basic shape with what I have. And so here, I'm bringing out the elbow just a little bit, just by adding in that subtle little bump there will help really indicate that there's actually a joint in the arm and not just this weird, tube that is supposed to be an arm, but it actually starts to feel like one. I can also add a subtle kind of divot for the 2 forearm muscles here that meet like that, approximately. And we do the same thing. And this is one of those points where understanding the anatomy of the human body is really, really crucial. And there's tons of resources out there for understanding human anatomy and kind of getting a grasp of it, understanding how the muscles meet together, how muscles intersect with each other, how the bones play a role, and things like, all those kinds of things. And I highly encourage you to pick them up. A couple of books off the top of my head that I believe I've actually referenced already in this series, but I'll reference again. One is the Anatomy for the Artist by Stephen Peck. You can find it for about $15 US on Amazon. Incredible book. It's all hand-drawn, but he does an incredible job of simplifying human anatomy with basic shapes and forms that anyone can understand. Really, really worth the money. Another more recent book that's almost purely photography is Anatomy for the Artist by oh no, I just blanked on her name, but it's all right, I'm gonna have to pull this up real quick so that I don't make a fool of myself. Anatomy for the Artist by Sarah. Here it is. Anatomy for the Artist by Sarah. I'm gonna, butcher this name, but Sarah Semblé. Really, really fantastic. Particularly good for helping to understand form and shadows. And then one other resource that's really, really good that's actually specific for us 3D artists is Introduction to Character Creation in ZBrush, I believe, by, I want to say, Scott Spencer. He's an amazing ZBrush sculptor that really, really knows his stuff and also is very, very good at helping to bring human anatomy down to even the most beginner's level and making it easy to understand. Definitely some resources to pick up. But so there, now we're, just kind of continuing along, just doing some vertex pushing here and there to help get a more natural form. And really, at this point, I'm not even so much looking at the reference. I'm more just looking for what makes a nice result. What with my photo references not always being exactly consistent in things like camera angle, the perspective, and so on, I can't rely exclusively on those to give me a good, clean result. And so, I'm definitely trying to use my own anatomy knowledge and such to take what the photo references give me and then improve them even further to get what I find to be a good result. A good piece of advice I'd say is to always use photo references, but never exclusively rely on those photo references. If you exclusively rely on them, what you'll do is not only will you just copy what you see in the photo and end up with a less original piece, you will also compound any errors that you see or any errors that you perceive in the photo. So, if there is something such as if you're working from two different photos and there's a lot of perspective differences between those photos, what you explicitly see and perceive as the actual forms may not actually be correct, because instead what you're doing is you're averaging out what you see between the two photos, or maybe even just taking what you see in one photo and then trying to apply that to the others. And what you're instead going to do is you're just going to compound those errors that you're making and perhaps make the problem worse than it originally was. And so, don't rely exclusively on photos, but make good use of them. So now I want to bring this center line up just a little bit to show this slight difference between the bicep muscles in the front and then the triceps in the back and the muscles down here through the center of the underside of the arm. And generally on someone of average build, such as our reference, these center muscles coming down through here are not generally clearly defined unless they're under stress, and so generally just doing a slight divot through there is generally sufficient. Okay, so that's about it for the arms. You can see that it was pretty simple. The main thing to notice is that with even just a very simple shape, what we see here, and let me improve this just a little bit, bring this in, turn proportional editing back on, bring that in a bit more, and maybe bring these in and these in just a little. Okay, so what we see here is we see the deltoid muscles through here. We see our bicep muscles in here. We don't have much for the triceps, so maybe we'll actually pull these back just a little bit. And you'll notice that I'm doing this from an angle such that I get a better silhouette of my entire model rather than only working from direct views. And actually, at this point, it's also a good good practice to work in perspective so that you can actually see your model as someone would see it in real life. So here we can see we have, the deltoid muscles, we've got the biceps, the triceps coming down through here, we've got the muscles through the center of the arm, we've got our forearm muscles coming down through here, and of course, apologies for the message drawing, the rest of the forearm. And so we can see that we have a fairly nice silhouette here, just focusing on the silhouettes where the bulge here, slight bulge here, just a subtle inset there and a slight difference gives us a pretty nice, pleasing result. And it very clearly, from basically any angle here, it looks like an arm. While, yeah, there's probably a few errors here and there, and it could definitely be improved. Maybe this area could be brought up a little bit. There's definitely things that we could do to continue making this arm better and better. But for just very quick work, that's what we get, and it already works as an arm. And so I'm going to go ahead and leave it right there, and we're going to move on by leaving local view and move on to the legs. So the way that we're going to do the legs, the first thing is we need to define the rest of the pelvic region such that we have a single edge loop right through here with which to extrude the legs from. The way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to Alt-right click to select this bottom edge loop. I'm going to hit E to extrude, bring it down along the Z-axis once. I'm going to hit S and Z to scale it back just a little bit. I'm going to bring it right down to the bottom of the groin. And then I'm going to select these two. Actually, let's bring it a little bit higher, right about there. Bring it out along the X-axis just a little, scale it out a little bit. We'll scale along the Y-axis just a bit. And then I'm going to select this edge, and I'm going to hit F and fill a face. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in, say, 4 edge loops right here. And then I will bring this down, just about like that, to the bottom of the groin. Right in there. And then I'm going to work on the shape from the side view, getting a realistic shape here. We're fairly close to it anyway. Something about like that. Then here towards the back of the buttocks, we'll go ahead and pull these in a bit there. And from the side, pull this up a little bit. Okay, so that starts to work. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and select this next section here. You notice I'm leaving one edge unselected there and one edge unselected at the back because I'm going to extrude this down, scale it up along the Y-axis, and I'm also going to bring these edges out, this edge out, this edge in a little bit, and I'll tweak these more in a moment. And then I'm going to connect that face there, and the same thing at the back, like this. And so what I've done is just immediately redirected my edge flow source where now this edge loop still goes completely across, but I've kind of split that out a little bit. And so now if I select this entire thing, I've got one entire edge loop that I can select, and maybe I will bring this out just a little bit there. I'll select the edge loop, and I'll go and hit E to extrude, bring it down to about the knee, and then I'm going to hit W and smooth a couple of times. And what that does, I'm just going to, just smoothing out the spacing between these vertices. If you happen to have the loop tools enabled, by hitting W and loop tools, you can also hit space, and that would just average out the spacing so it makes all the edges the same length. And then I'm just going to hit W smooth a couple more times actually, simply to kind of even out the vertical distribution. Or I could also hit S and then Z to scale that down a bit. Then I'm going to bring it down to the upper knee. I'm going to scale it down, switch to the side view, scale it down along the Y-axis if needed. Maybe rotate it a little bit to match, to be perpendicular to the angle of the leg, something like this. And then I can do the same thing that I did on the arm by now just immediately going in and say add 3 edge loops initially for the initial shapes, which maybe I will then scale each of these down along the Z-axis just to flatten them out a little bit. I don't need this kind of wavy pattern that we have going on. And then I can just move each one of these out along the Y-axis initially to get the shape of the leg. I can scale them along the X-axis as needed to fit the profile. And you notice I have very nice even distribution here. And then I'm going to grab these ones here from the side, from the front view. And same thing here and here. I'll pull them out to meet. Pull these out. And I want to even out these lines. So maybe I'll actually just select these, hit W, and smooth a few times. You can see how that just kind of spreads them right out. And the main thing is just get really nice, even poly distribution here. On these, you can see that that's brought those out, so I need to bring them back out to, again, match my profile. These, I'm going to bring them up just a little bit because I'm going to add in one more edge loop here, which allows me to get this extra little bulge right here at the inner thigh. I might scale these out just a little. And one thing to note too is be comparing from the left and the right side. Don't exclusively follow one side or the other, since depending on the camera angle, one may give a false impression of the actual shape there. But you can immediately see, if we go into local view, that that's actually starting to work fairly well. We've got some kind of funky shapes going on here, so I'm just going to select these, hit W, smooth a couple of times. Whoops, hit the wrong key. W, smooth, and then maybe we'll bring them out just a little. We can pull these around. Doing an edge slide can also help kind of smooth things out. Okay. Just a matter of tweaking this just a little bit. Okay, that's starting to work pretty well towards the front. Okay, I'm going to leave local view again and continue tweaking this a little bit. I'll add a little extra bit right there. And then from the side view, let's work on the buttock region. I'm going to pull this over. I'm going to pull these out a bit. And these. And since I'm working on the side view, since my frame rate's a little low right now, I might go ahead and hide the front view on the image. One of the reasons my viewport's being a little slow is these are pretty high resolution images, and it really can slow things down a bit. So if you're having trouble with that, just turn the images off that you're not using. In fact, we ought to name these as ref-front and ref-side, just to make things easier to find in the viewport. Alrighty, that's looking fairly good. Now what I want to do is start kind of controlling the muscle flow. So the muscle flow back here is essentially, I'm going to set this to surface. Basically, we've got the large muscles coming through and then going down the leg, something like that. And then we have the two large leg muscles here and here. And so that's basically the shape that I want to try and get in my topology. So I'm going to pull these vertices up right here. I will also pull these in slightly. I'll pull these out just a little bit. These out just a little. I'm going to turn on my proportional editing tool. I'm going to pull with a fairly large radius. I'm going to pull these down just a bit. We pull this up just a little bit. Pull this up just a little. And immediately, you can see we start to get a more natural shape in there. Now, we need to continue tweaking this, of course. We can grab leg muscle there. This will be the center of the leg muscles, so then we'll pull this out. Just kind of flatten that up just a little bit. Pull these in. Pull these in. And we'll definitely probably add in a little bit more topology right in here to give it a little bit more control, but we're not going to do that yet. That's for a little bit later once we start doing a little bit more of a detailing pass and such. Although we could probably go ahead and add in, say, one more edge loop right here, and then go ahead and slide this one down a little bit. We can then slide this up just to help get a little bit more control. These ones then we can pull in. And actually what we can do is to redirect some of this topology flow. You'll notice this starts to get kind of nasty all in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into face mode, select these two edge loops. I'm going to hit Control E and rotate the edge. And then I'll rotate the edge again until I get this. And what you can see now is that I have two kind of diamonds in here where it's controlling my edge flow to help kind of bring the flow down like this. And if we go into face mode, we can see this a little bit more clearly where it doesn't look real good right now. We need to definitely tweak this a little bit more. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and remove these couple faces. Maybe about like that. And then I'm going to manually do this where what I would like to have is for this face to be shaped like that, such that I get, you know, this nice flow coming down. And then I will bring these edges back in here, and I will extrude them once. And let's see what that gives us. So if we bring this out then, we can pull this back. And I'm just kind of doing this off the cuff, so I may have to adjust this a little bit. Then I will fill that face. Probably something I could do is I don't need quite this much topology in here, so I could probably actually go ahead and select these, hit W, merge at center, and then merge these at center. And then I can bring this vertex back and combine it right there. So I can select everything, W, and remove doubles. It removes that vertex. And then right in here, I can pull these vertices back to create kind of a diamond shape, like this, and then hit Alt-J and convert that to a single quad. And then that gives me some of the extra topology that I wanted right in here to control the inner thigh, while keeping the topology in the back a little bit more slimmed down. And you know, I can still definitely add in more as I need it, but for the time being, I think this will work fairly well. You know, I'll probably at some point want another loop down like this, maybe another one here, but this ought to work pretty well. Okay, so that starts to give us a good natural shape. If we increase the resolution there, we can start to see a little bit more of what we're getting. We probably want to go ahead and bring this down, bring these up a little bit. Let's go ahead and re-enable our side reference real quick. Or actually, oh, we just need to leave local view. I'm going to add in one more edge loop right here. I'm going to hit Alt-S just to smooth it just a little bit. And then I'm going to go back into local view just to kind of clean up what I've just now done. I'll take this edge, I'm going to slide it in, Control E, edge slide. Just bring it in. Same thing here. I'll bring this out just slightly. I'm going to go and select this edge loop, hit Control E, edge slide, slide it up a little past the halfway point, and then slide it back. And that just effectively just averages out the two edges. Now again, I'm just kind of tweaking things here and there to get a more natural result. Right now this feels pretty flat, so I'm going to pull these up a little. Let's smooth these. Okay, that starts to feel a little better. Maybe I'll smooth that vertex and that vertex, pull these out. Okay, I think that'll probably be good enough for the time being. You know, we can obviously continue tweaking things as we go along, and we'll definitely need to. But for the time being, that will probably work. Oh, too much. Just going to undo that. Okay, let's go ahead and leave that where it's at now and focus in on the rest of the legs. And I'm going to leave local view. I'm going to re-enable my front reference. I'm just going to grab these vertices and I'm just going to smooth them a couple times. Maybe grab these ones, smooth them a couple times. Just average that a little bit. Grab this section, pull it out just a touch. All right, on the knees then, I'm going to start by kind of averaging or pulling down the side sections, because basically the shape that I want for the knees is this and something like that of sorts. So for the front here, I will pull these down a little further, and then these. And then for the back, it's basically the same thing of sorts, where this is going to come down. The center ones will come down even further, because the back of the leg is basically, we've got the two leg muscles in the back kind of coming down like that. And then we have, whoops, delete that. Basically have the calf muscles like that, or this one actually comes down a little further. And so then they're just going to meet like this. And then we have the two major kind of tendons in the knee coming in through right around in there. So that's kind of what I want to achieve of sorts. So with this, I'm then going to select this loop. I'm going to extrude it, and then I'm going to hit W and smooth, and then S, Z, and 0 to scale it down. I'll scale it down along the Y-axis, bring it in about there. From the from the front view, I'll bring it over, and I can kind of bring this down a bit, bring these down a little bit, and then I'm going to bring these up, take this out, we go into local view, we can see this a little bit more clearly with what I have. Something about like that. And then I can go ahead and I'm going to extrude this down to the ankle. Hit W smooth a couple times again. Scale it down about there. Hit 3 to go to side view. Scale it down along the Z-axis a bit. Move it over. Scale it out along the Y. Something about there. Then I will add in, say, 3 edge loops. Then select them one at a time. Pull them back. Scale along the Y. Do it again. Again, I'm just matching the profile here. That one looks pretty good just like it is. And basically with the legs, for the most part, the shin is mostly straight, sometimes with the subtlest kind of inwards curve of sorts. And then from the front view, it's kind of this shape through there. We've got the outer curve here, and then we have the calf muscle from the front there, and then coming down through there. So what I want to get then is I'm going to turn on my proportional editing. I'm going to grab these vertices here, pull them out with a large influence, add that kind of subtle bow. I'll bring the inside in just a little. I'll take the inside or the back inside of the calf out just a little bit to then give me something about like that. And then switching back out of local view again, I'm going to add another edge loop for the knee, and actually I'll do one more here, which I'm going to slide up towards the inside edge, and then I'm going to select this one, hit Control E, edge slide, and then slide it back. Just kind of average those. And actually I'm going to do the same thing with this one, slide it down, slide it back. Just kind of average the two. And then I'll bring these ones down a little, these in a little, take these in. Let's go into local view. Take this side in a little. Basically on the knee too, we also have, this large muscle coming down. We have the main muscles here, a little one there. And so we're going to tend to see a little bit of an inset, a little bit of a bulge, and then the actual, kneecap and things like that. Okay. Again, I'm just tweaking these to fit with my reference. And basically on the back of the leg here, we also have, the buttocks comes down, and then we basically have almost a straight line down to the back of the knee. Not perfectly straight. Obviously, it's going to be kind of averaged out based on the fat, the amount of fat, the amount of muscle, etc. But it's going to be relatively straight between the two. And so we want to kind of straighten that. We don't want this weird kind of curve. We want it more of a kind of curve out, kind of mostly come straight down, and then kind of curve in a little bit. And of course, any way that you can subtly hint at the muscle forms is good. So here I'm kind of hinting at the calf muscles. And again, calf muscles, knee joint. I'm going to take this face right here in a little bit extra, and then I'm going to take these vertices out, bring them out like that, and then I'll do the same thing with these ones, because those are again going to represent the sides of the muscles there. Right in here, where we have the calf muscle coming out, you notice I'm adding this subtle bulge like this in the edges, because that way it'll actually give me a subtle hint of basically a new muscle shape forming in that area. Right down here towards the Achilles tendon, we want to accent it just a little bit by bringing the surrounding vertices in, almost giving like a reverse blunted teardrop shape to the ankle. Where we have the bulb of the teardrop and then the tail like this, but then it's been kind of cut off right about there. And that starts to feel pretty solid. And again, of course, we're just working with the main forms. We're not building a perfect body right now or anything like that. We can bring in the sides of the kneecap a little bit. Bring out the face of the kneecap. We'll bring in, again, show that just a little bit of the calf muscle through here. Okay, that starts to feel pretty good. If we take a look in perspective mode, we definitely see indication of the knees. We see the indication of the calf muscle, the curvature of the outer leg, the thigh, the inner thigh. All those various details all start to feel pretty solid. The legs feel a little short right now, which, if we take a look, really is more than anything is due to the fact that our ankles are maybe a little bit short. Maybe need something a little bit more like that. But also, since we don't have feet on it, on the model, they're also going to feel short because of that. So don't worry about the fact that the legs feel a little short. That will be remedied shortly. I think that's pretty much going to do it for this part. Although we should bring this down a little bit more there. Okay. Yeah, so that's going to do it for this part, I think. We've made pretty good progress. We got the majority of the arm model, the majority of the legs done, and overall made good progress on the model. So thanks for sticking with me. I know this has been a long series and we still have quite a bit to go, but I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful, and I will see you on the next part. Let's just take a look at our model before turning off the recording. Okay, feeling pretty good so far. And again, thanks for watching.